Have you ever wondered what happens when your eyes close for the last time? When your final breath leaves your chest, when the voices of those around you fade, when silence swallows every sound, what lies beyond that silence? For centuries, people have asked this question. Some imagine clouds and harps, some imagine endless sleep, some fear nothingness. But deep inside, every soul longs to know, is there more? Tonight, I want to take you on a journey into that mystery. Not through imagination, not through fantasy, but through the eyes of a man who walked with God so closely that he was taken without death. His name was Enoch. The scriptures tell us in one simple line, Enoch walked with God, and he was not, for God took him. But what does that mean? Where did he go? What did he see? Long ago, there was a book nearly lost to time, the Book of Enoch. In its ancient pages lie visions so vivid, so breathtaking, so filled with glory and warning, that even today they stir the soul. In it, Enoch describes what heaven looks like, not as myth, not as dream, but as reality. He walked its gardens, saw its judgments, heard its choirs, and stood before the throne itself. And now, through his story, I will take you there. But I give you this promise. What you are about to hear is not entertainment. It is not a tale to pass the time. It is an invitation to see your life in the light of eternity, to realize that nothing you do is wasted, that heaven is closer than you think. Welcome to English Story Haven, where stories are not just for listening, but for living, for learning, and for becoming. Tonight, let us walk with Enoch. It began on an ordinary night. The stars burned quietly in the sky. The earth lay still, and Enoch walked alone through the fields. He was not searching for visions, not chasing after mysteries. He was simply walking, as he always did, in quiet communion with God. But on this night, the veil thinned. The silence deepened until every sound felt sharper, every breath heavier. And then the sky bent. A slope of light descended, soft and endless, alive with radiance. Two figures stepped from it, their faces brighter than flame, their presence so vast it made the earth feel small. They did not speak with lips, but their voices filled Enoch's bones. Come and see. Enoch stepped forward, and the field folded behind him like a page turning in a book. He entered a realm unlike anything he had ever known. The air itself shone. The ground hummed. All around him, winds gathered in chambers of light. He saw storehouses of snow, treasuries of rain, foundations of storms. Angels moved through them, tending each element with care, ensuring that every drop, every breeze, every season arrived in its time. For the first time in his life, Enoch understood. Nature is not chaos, it is choir. The winds do not wander, they obey. The rains do not fall by accident, they are released. The sun and moon are not blind fires. They are carried, measured, sung into motion. Every storm has a purpose. Every season has a rhythm. The world is not random, it is remembered. He wept, for he had thought life small. Now he saw it vast, but the journey did not end there. His guides carried him higher, and the air grew heavy with sorrow. He entered a cavern where angels once glorious now hung in chains. Their wings were torn, their eyes dim. These were the watchers who had rebelled, who had turned from light to darkness. Their cries echoed endlessly, not in rage but in regret. Enoch trembled. He wanted to turn away, but the guides made him look. Why must I see this? He thought. The answer came like a whisper of steel, because truth is not complete without justice. Mercy without judgment is weakness. Judgment without mercy is cruelty. Both are eternal. Both are real. Enoch fell to his knees. He understood. Rebellion is not freedom. Pride is not power. Every choice has consequence. Even angels are not immune. The guides lifted him gently and carried him upward again. The air changed. The sorrow faded. Before him unfolded a garden so radiant he thought his heart would burst. Rivers shimmered with light, trees bent heavy with fruit like jewels, and birds sang melodies that washed his soul clean. At the center stood the tree of life, its roots glowing like fire, its branches stretching into eternity. Its fragrance filled his lungs, and he felt rest deeper than sleep, joy brighter than laughter. Souls clothed in brightness moved among the trees. They did not wander like shadows, but lived with purpose. Some guided streams of light to nourish the roots. Others offered fruit to one another, their faces radiant with peace. When they looked at Enoch, their eyes shone with recognition, as though they had always known him. They bowed in welcome, not in worship, but in love. And then Enoch understood. Nothing good is lost. Every kindness, every act of love, every whispered prayer blooms here, eternal. Paradise is not reward. It is memory fulfilled. Enoch stood in the garden, his heart swelling with wonder. The fragrance of the tree of life lingered in his chest like a memory he had always carried, but had forgotten until now. He longed to stay forever, to rest under its branches, to listen to the rivers and birds. Yet, even as he breathed deeply of that eternal peace, the guides turned their shining faces toward him. Their silence spoke louder than words. This was not the end of his journey, so he followed, though his steps were slow, as one reluctant to leave paradise. The path led upward once more, twisting like a ribbon of light. As they ascended, the garden's radiance dimmed, replaced by a sharper glow, like sunlight through crystal. Enoch felt the air grow denser, charged with something vast and unshakable. He braced himself, for he knew that what lay ahead would test not his joy, but his courage. The path opened into a hall lined with pillars of fire. At each pillar stood an angel, vast and solemn, their wings folded, their eyes burning with knowledge. Before them lay lecterns of light, and on each lectern rested scrolls that glowed like molten silver. The angels dipped quills of flame into rivers of shining ink and wrote without ceasing. Their movements were steady, their focus unbroken, their silence filled with authority. Enoch crept closer, trembling, and looked upon one scroll. What he saw stole his breath. It was a life not in vague lines or faded memories, but in piercing clarity. Every word spoken, every thought hidden, every act done in secret was recorded. Yet more than actions were written, intentions were revealed. A gift given with pride was written as pride, not charity. A smile offered in genuine love glowed brighter than gold. A whispered apology, spoken from the heart, was recorded as a doorway where once there had been only a wall. Enoch staggered back, his hands clutching his chest. Who can endure such judgment? He cried. His voice shook like a child's, filled with both fear and awe at once. One of the scribes turned its blazing eyes upon him. Enoch thought he would be consumed, but instead warmth flooded him, deep as the sun's embrace on a cold morning. A thought entered him, clear as crystal. No one stands by their strength, only by mercy. Tears poured from his eyes. He realized that judgment was not cruelty. It was truth, and truth was the ground where mercy takes root. For only when all is revealed can forgiveness be real. The scribes returned to their work, their quills moving in rhythm with an unseen song. Enoch stood watching, humbled to the core of his being. His life, too, was written. His every word, his every silence, his every act of love or failure, it was all there, inscribed in fire. He bowed his head and whispered, "Let mercy remember me." The guides touched him gently, lifting him upward again. The hall of records fell away, and he entered a realm where sound became everything. At first it was a hum, low and steady, vibrating in his bones. Then it swelled into a chant, then into a chorus so vast it seemed to hold the universe together. Before him stretched ranks upon ranks of angels, shining like pillars of lightning. Their wings arched like horizons, their faces brighter than stars. And all of them sang. The sound was not music as men know it. It was existence itself woven into harmony. Every note carried creation. Every chord held time. Every rhythm sustained life. The sound was too much for flesh, too holy for bone. His heart felt as if it were being remade, stretched wider with every note. He could not speak, could not lift his head, could only weep as the flood of glory poured over him. One angel, towering and radiant, stepped forward. With a single touch, Enoch was lifted to his feet. His trembling did not cease, but he could stand. A thought entered his spirit like light entering water. Stand, for you are not here to be destroyed, but to see. And so Enoch stood, tears streaming, as the choirs of lightning sang. He saw angels carrying bowls of gold filled with glowing water. When he looked closer, his breath caught. They were filled with prayers. Every whispered plea, every broken sigh, every tear shed in sorrow was gathered here. None were lost. The prayers of the forgotten burned brightest of all, glowing like jewels before the throne. Enoch wept again, overwhelmed. On earth, he had seen the poor cry out unheard, the broken weep in silence, the oppressed groan under burdens. Here, he saw their voices not only remembered, but exalted. Their prayers rose like incense, poured out before the throne as treasures more precious than crowns. The sound grew louder, carrying him forward. He felt the air thicken with glory, as though a presence waited ahead too great for creation to contain. His knees shook, his breath grew shallow. He knew what lay beyond. The throne. His guides turned their blazing faces toward him, reverent even in their brightness. They gestured toward a gate of fire that rose before them. Beyond it pulsed a radiance without shadow, a brilliance that seemed to breathe. Enoch fell to the ground again, trembling. He could not look. He could barely breathe. But the voice came, not thunder, not flame, but love itself. It entered him like life. Do not fear, Enoch. You are here not to perish, but to witness. What you see, you will carry. What you carry, you will speak. And through your words, generations will remember. Enoch's tears flowed freely. He pressed his face to the radiant ground and whispered, I am not worthy. The voice replied, You are not here because you are worthy. You are here because you were chosen. The gate of fire opened, and light poured out like rivers. The choirs roared louder. The scribes wrote faster. The prayers blazed brighter. Enoch trembled, for he knew he stood on the edge of eternity's heart. Enoch pressed his forehead to the radiant floor, trembling. Beyond the gate of fire, glory poured like an ocean too vast to bear. Rivers of flame ran like living streams, but they did not burn. They gave life. The choirs of angels thundered, their voices weaving into harmony so vast it seemed the pillars of creation leaned upon it. And at the center, upon the throne, sat the Ancient of Days. His garments were whiter than snow. His face shone brighter than 10,000 suns. From his presence flowed rivers of fire, and all creation bowed before him. Yet in all that majesty, Enoch felt not only fear, but love, a love deeper than oceans, heavier than mountains, yet gentle as a father's embrace. Beside him stood one radiant as the morning, one like a son of man. His face glowed with mercy and justice. His eyes blazed with compassion and truth. Authority flowed into him from the Ancient of Days, and Enoch knew without words that this was the one destined to judge the living and the dead, to reign over a kingdom without end. Enoch fell flat, unable to lift his eyes. But the voice came again, the same voice that had carried him through every realm. Rise, Enoch. Strength returned to his bones, though he still shook. Slowly he rose, and as he did, visions opened before his eyes. He saw the earth stretched out like a scroll. Time unrolled before him in waves. He saw nations rise and fall. He saw kings strutting in pride, their towers piercing the sky, their laughter loud. He saw them stripped in an instant, their crowns falling like leaves, their empires collapsing like dust. He saw the humble, poor and forgotten on earth, lifting their faces in joy as light wrapped around them. He saw the weary carried, the broken healed, the faithful crowned with radiance. Tears filled his eyes, for in that moment he understood. Greatness on earth is not greatness in heaven. Power on earth is not power in eternity. What men despise, heaven exalts. What men exalt, heaven humbles. The vision shifted. He saw a great judgment. Books were opened, scrolls unfurled. The fiery scribes read aloud every life, every act, every secret thought. Some shrank back, trembling, crushed under the weight of their own rebellion. Others lifted their faces, radiant with hope, for mercy covered them like a garment. Then the Son of Man spoke, his voice like rushing waters. With a word, he separated the faithful from the faithless, the humble from the proud. Justice was swift, but mercy was never absent. Enoch fell again, overwhelmed. How can man endure? He whispered. The answer came, tender yet unshakable. No one endures by strength, only by mercy. Walk with God, and you will be covered. Turn from him, and even glory will be lost. The visions faded, but the weight of them remained. The guides lifted Enoch gently, leading him from the throne. They carried him into chambers filled with light, so pure it felt like water washing his spirit clean. Here he saw mysteries, hidden from the foundation of the world. He walked into a hall where the laws of creation were etched in flame. He saw the paths of stars traced like threads of silver, constellations strung like jewels on a loom. He saw the sun stored in chambers, its light poured out each morning by angels like rivers of gold. He saw the moon carried in gentle hands, its phases turning like wheels of crystal dot. And then he saw time itself, its seasons, its ages, its days. Angels moved with compasses of fire, marking dawn and dusk, guiding years and centuries. Every motion was precise, every moment accounted for. Time was not chaos. It was covenant. Enoch wept. He had thought the rising of the sun ordinary, the turning of seasons natural. Now he saw that every moment was gift, every hour guarded, every day remembered. The guides led him onward. He entered a chamber of living books, their pages glowing like fire. Angels moved among them, opening volumes and reading aloud. Enoch drew closer and gasped. These were the stories of generations. Lives written in flame, choices shaping destinies. Some books blazed with light, filled with mercy and love. Others smoldered in shadow, stained with pride and cruelty. Some trembled, unfinished, waiting for choices yet to be made. Enoch bowed his head. He saw that humanity's story was not fixed. It was being written even now. Every act, every decision, every prayer added another line. And he realized, the future is not only what will be, it is what we choose. He longed to read more, but the guides stopped him. Not all is for you. Some truths remain sealed until the appointed day. But what you have seen is enough. Every choice echoes into eternity. Enoch bowed low, trembling with awe. He knew then that no life is small, no act meaningless. Every breath matters. Enoch followed his guides into a chamber unlike any he had yet seen. It was not filled with light or fire, but with sound. At first it seemed like noise cries, whispers, laughter, weeping, shouts, songs. But as he listened, he realized it was not chaos. It was humanity. Every voice on earth, every breath, every sound of the heart rose here and was woven together. He gasped as he understood. This was the heart of the world. The cries of mothers for their children, the laughter of the innocent, the sighs of the weary, the groans of the oppressed, the hymns of the faithful, all of it rose like incense. Angels moved among the voices, carrying golden bowls filled with glowing fire. Inside each bowl shimmered prayers. Some bowls overflowed with radiance, heavy with faith that had been spoken through tears. Others flickered faintly, nearly empty, as if abandoned before they were finished. One angel brought a bowl near to Enoch. Inside was a single spark, small as a grain of sand. Yet as Enoch gazed at it, the spark flared, growing brighter until it filled the bowl with light. And Enoch understood. Even the smallest prayer, whispered in weakness, is remembered. None are lost. Every word, every tear, every breath, for he thought of all the moments on earth when men prayed and thought no one listened. He remembered broken hearts pouring out words into the dark, believing their cries had vanished. Now he saw that not a single plea was forgotten. Every prayer was lifted, treasured, magnified. Heaven wastes nothing. But then the chamber shifted and the voices dimmed. The light of the bowls faded behind him, and he found himself standing at the edge of an abyss dotted yawned wide and deep. Darker than the night, deeper than oceans, endless as eternity. From its depths rose cries unlike any he had heard before, anguished, hollow, hopeless. They were not the cries of those seeking mercy, but of those who had turned from it. Enoch shuddered. His knees weakened, his breath caught. Shadows moved in the abyss, souls bent and broken, carrying the weight of their choices. No chains held them, yet they could not rise. No hand pushed them, yet they sank deeper. And he understood with sorrow. This was not cruelty imposed from outside. This was consequence. The abyss was not made by God's wrath, but by rebellion's fruit. He wanted to turn away, but the guides held him still. He needed to see, for truth cannot be spoken halfway. He wept, for the cries pierced him, echoing with the weight of regret. Yet as he gazed, he saw something strange agate, faint but real, shining at the edge of the abyss. It was small, a glimmer of hope against overwhelming darkness, but it was there. What is this? Enoch whispered, his voice shaking, and the guides answered in thought. Mercy remains while time endures. The door is not closed until the last breath. Even the darkest life can turn and be lifted into light. Hope pierced his sorrow. He realized then that no soul was beyond redemption while life remained. The abyss was real, but so was the gate. The darkness was vast, but the light was stronger. Every man, every woman, every child carried the choice until their final breath. Enoch fell to his knees, raising his hands. "O Lord," he cried, "may they choose the gate. May they walk through it before it is too late." The abyss faded and light returned. He was lifted once more into the higher realms. The choir sang louder, the rivers of deeds glowed brighter, the prayers burned stronger. He felt his heart swell with awe and sorrow together. He had seen beauty beyond measure and judgment beyond fear. But in all of it, he saw the same truth. Eternity is real, and choices matter. The guides touched him one final time in this part of his journey. Their faces shone with reverence, and their thoughts pressed into his spirit. "Enoch, you have seen what few mortals can endure. But your journey is not for you alone. It is for generations. Speak it, carry it, teach them. For heaven is real, mercy is waiting, justice is unshakable, and life is not meaningless." Enoch bowed his head, his tears falling like rivers. He knew now that his task was heavy, but holy. He had not been chosen for comfort, but for testimony. What he had seen was too vast for words. Yet he must try, for it was not his to keep. And so, as the choirs thundered and the throne blazed in the distance, Enoch's spirit was filled with certainty deeper than time itself. Life is not forgotten. Prayers are not wasted. Kindness is not lost. Every breath echoes into eternity. Enoch's feet touched the earth again, but his heart remained wrapped in eternity. The fields looked the same. The stars glowed as before. The voices of his family rose around him, But he was no longer the same man. His eyes carried visions of fire and gardens. His ears still echoed with choirs of angels. His chest burned with the voice of the Ancient of Days. At first he was silent. How could human words describe rivers of fire? How could mortal language paint the tree of life or the abyss of consequence? He prayed quietly, asking for wisdom. And in time, words came, not polished speeches, not the language of kings, but the simple voice of a man who had seen. He gathered his family first. They sat in a circle as torches flickered. Children leaned forward, wide-eyed, sensing something far beyond bedtime stories. Elders bowed their heads, reverent. And Enoch began to speak. He told them of the storehouses of rain and snow, of angels guiding the winds, of the sun and moon carried like treasures. He told them of paradise, where no kindness is lost, where every prayer blooms eternal, where souls shine with joy. He told them of the chained angels. Their pride turned to regret, their rebellion turned to chains. He told them of the fiery scribes, recording not appearances but intentions. He told them of the choirs, of bowls filled with prayers, of the abyss where choices end, and of the gate of mercy that still shines. And finally, he told them of the throne, the Ancient of Days, the Son of Man radiant in glory, justice and mercy unshakable. Some wept openly, some trembled, some clung to one another. Even the children sat in silence, tears on their cheeks, though they could not fully understand. For Enoch's words were not only words, they were fire, and they burned into every heart. Word spread quickly. Soon neighbors came, then villages, then crowds. Farmers left their fields, shepherds their flocks, merchants their stalls. The poor came, hoping for comfort. The weary came, hoping for peace. Even the proud came, hoping to mock, but found their laughter falter in the weight of his testimony. Enoch spoke not as a teacher, but as a witness. His voice was steady, his tone gentle, but every word carried eternity. Life is not meaningless, he said. Every act, every thought, every word is written. Nothing is forgotten. Nothing is wasted. He lifted his hand to the sky. I have seen it. I have walked its gardens. I have heard its choirs. I have stood before its throne. And I tell you, heaven is real. Justice is true. Mercy is waiting. Choose now while breath is in your chest. The crowds trembled. Some fell to their knees, crying for mercy. Some raised their hands in praise. A few still mocked, but their voices were weak, drowned by the fire of truth. One evening, a man stood up among the crowd. His face was proud, his voice sharp. How do we know you speak the truth? Perhaps you dreamed. Perhaps you lie. The crowd murmured, some in anger, others in fear. But Enoch raised his hand. His eyes met the man's, and he spoke softly. Do you feel the beating in your chest right now? The man frowned. Yes. Do you command it? Enoch asked. The man hesitated. No. Then know this, Enoch said. Every beat, every breath is written. Not by you, but by the one who gives it. I have seen the scribes of fire recording every soul. Whether you believe or not, your life is already written. The man's face paled. He turned and left in silence. Enoch did not gloat. He did not mock. He simply lowered his eyes, whispering a prayer for the man's soul. That night, as stars glittered above, Enoch walked alone, whispering prayers for all he had spoken to. He prayed not for himself, but for them, for the poor, for the weary, for the proud, for the mocking. He prayed that mercy would find them before their time was gone. He remembered the abyss and begged that none would fall there. He remembered the gate of mercy and begged that all would walk through it. His life became a testimony. People began to change. Words grew kinder, hands grew gentler, hearts grew softer. Families prayed where they once quarreled. Neighbors shared where they once envied. Even children learned to speak with kindness, remembering that every word is written, but not all hearts turned. Some grew harder, some mocked louder, some clenched their fists at the thought of judgment. Yet Enoch did not falter. He had seen the truth. Rebellion may roar, but its end is silence. Pride may laugh, but its echo is chains. He knew that laughter cannot dim the sun. Eternity does not bend to disbelief. Years passed. Enoch aged, but strangely. His body grew older, yet his spirit grew lighter. His steps felt less bound by earth, his gaze fixed beyond horizons no one else could see. Some swore they saw his feet leave the ground as he walked. Others whispered that his eyes shone at night, glowing softly like embers. And then, one day, or so it seemed, the sun rose as it always had, painting the fields in gold. The people went about their work, some plowing, some tending flocks, some drawing water. Yet a strange stillness hung in the air, as if creation itself held its breath. Enoch walked among his family, speaking softly, his voice filled with the same peace it always carried. But those who looked closely saw it. His steps were lighter, his eyes brighter, his presence almost too radiant to belong to earth. He paused, turning to his loved ones. A smile spread across his face, gentle and luminous. "Do not be afraid," he said. "This is the promise. This is the end of walking and the beginning of arrival." And then it happened. The sky bent open like a curtain pulled aside. Light poured down, brighter than the sun, softer than dawn, alive with glory. The air thickened, trembling with power, yet no one felt fear. They felt only awe. The voices of choirs seemed to descend from the heavens, weaving through the stillness of the earth. Enoch lifted his hands, his smile widening. His feet left the ground, not in leaps but in calm certainty, as though the earth itself released him gladly. His family gasped, some crying out, some falling to their knees, some lifting their arms in praise. The light wrapped around him like a garment, and in an instant, he was gone. No grave was dug. No body remained. He had walked with God, and then he was not, for God took him. The people searched, but they found nothing. His footprints ended, but his story did not. The fields where he had walked carried a hush for days, as if eternity had brushed against time and left a mark. Those who had heard his words repeated them with trembling lips. Those who had doubted now wept, for doubt had no answer to his vanishing. From that day, Enoch's story burned brighter than ever. It was told around fires, whispered to children, spoken in markets and fields. And with every retelling, the lesson grew clearer. Heaven is real. Choices matter. Mercy waits, but the story is not only for them. It is for us. For you, listening now, close your eyes and remember Enoch's visions. Remember the storehouses of rain, the angels guiding the stars, the garden where no kindness is lost. Remember the scribes writing every intention, the choirs lifting every prayer, the abyss where rebellion leads, and the shining gate of mercy still open. Remember the throne blazing with rivers of fire, the Ancient of Days seated in justice, the Son of Man radiant in mercy. Remember the voice that said, "Do not fear. You are here not to perish, but to see." That voice still speaks today. Your life is not meaningless. Your words are not forgotten. Your kindness is not wasted. Your prayers are not lost. Every breath is written. Every choice matters. And the gate of mercy still shines. This truth is both warning and promise. It warns the proud. Your arrogance will not shield you. Your laughter will not silence eternity. Your power will not last. But it promises the humble. Your small acts of love are treasures. Your hidden prayers are jewels. Your tears are gathered like rivers of light. And above all, it calls to you. Walk with God, not in perfection, but in faith. Not in arrogance, but in humility. Not in fear, but in love. Walk with him, and one day, like Enoch, Your walking will become arriving. Imagine it. Gates of gold opening. Gardens blooming with every kindness you ever gave. Rivers shimmering with joy. Angels singing songs your soul already knows. The tree of life towering, fragrant and radiant. The throne blazing, the Son of Man welcoming. The Ancient of Days smiling. And then, the voice not thunder, not fire, but love itself. Do not fear. Welcome home. That is the lesson of Enoch. That is the truth he carried across eternity. That is the invitation before you now. So choose. Choose light when darkness tempts. Choose kindness when cruelty calls. Choose faith when doubt whispers. Choose love when hate burns. For every choice is written, every step remembered, every breath preserved. And one day, it will all stand beside you before the throne. This is English Story Haven, where stories are not only for listening, but for living. Where lessons are not only for learning, but for becoming. May this story walk with you as Enoch walked with God, and may it lead you to the light that never ends.